There's a man standing in front of the mirror every morning. He has a driver's license, a bank account, maybe kids, maybe a job title that sounds impressive at dinner parties. But somewhere behind his eyes, there's a 15-year-old who never quite figured out how to leave. You know him. Maybe you are him. He's the one who goes quiet when someone asks for a serious conversation. The one who postpones hard decisions until they make themselves, usually badly. He snaps when challenged, retreats when consistency is required, and then waits, sometimes without even knowing it, for someone else to clean up the mess. Not because he's broken, not because he's a lost cause, but because somewhere along the way, he learned that growing up was optional, that someone would always come to the rescue. And for years, that worked. Until life started asking for a man, and all he had were the tools of a boy. Here's what I want you to understand, right from the start. This isn't an accusation. This is an invitation. If you've ever felt that strange split, the part of you that throws a tantrum and runs, and the other part that surveys the wreckage afterward thinking, I didn't want any of this, then you're not alone. You're not defective. You're someone who was never shown how to grow without breaking yourself in the process. Let's give it a name, but not a cage. Emotional immaturity. It's not a diagnosis. It's a way of functioning. Reactions that don't match the situation. Responsibility that feels like a foreign language. Confusing strength with aggression and silence with peace. It's as if the age of your body and the age of your reactions live in different houses, on different streets, in different cities entirely. Sometimes there's ADHD nearby, sometimes depression, sometimes patterns that therapists have longer names for, maybe, but this isn't about labeling you. This is about giving you a mirror. And maybe, just maybe, a map. You've made promises before. This time, I'll change. This time, I'll step up. This time, I'll own it. And then the pressure builds, and you find yourself doing the same dance, procrastinating, exploding, disappearing. Around you, the faces grow tired. A partner carrying weight that was never hers alone. Parents who've stopped expecting. Children who've learned to read your absence like a second language. You feel accused by everyone, and yet, somehow, profoundly alone. Maybe you recognize yourself in this scene. Your partner mentions a bill, and something in your chest tightens. A wave of exhaustion crashes over you before she even finishes the sentence. We'll deal with it later, you hear yourself say, already halfway out of the room in your mind. Or maybe it's this. Someone asks you to show up for something real, something adult, and you feel a child inside you wanting to hide under the bed, to close the door, to make the world go away. If part of you wants to run and another part wants to stay, this is for the part that wants to grow, even if it's terrified. I want to offer you an image. Think of a shopping cart with a crooked wheel. On the first turn, you adjust. On the second, you compensate with your arm. By the third, your whole body aches from the effort. The crooked wheel here is the collection of habits you built to avoid pain, postponing, joking your way out of confrontation, going silent when it's time to own something, exploding when you feel small. That crooked wheel got you through some complicated aisles. It helped you survive grocery stores you never asked to enter. But without repair, it keeps pulling you in the same direction, over and over, into the same walls, the same messes, the same exhausted faces waiting at the checkout. Here's the thing, though. You are not the cart. You are the one pushing it. And the wheel can be fixed. But first, you have to see it. You have to feel the pull without pretending it's not there. You have to stop blaming the store for having aisles and start asking yourself why you've been dragging this weight for so long without ever stopping to look down. There's an ancient story we'll return to. A young king named Rehoboam. who inherited a throne far too large for the size of his maturity. His kingdom cracked because he confused hardness with strength and listened to the voices that fed his pride instead of the ones that offered wisdom. But that story will wait. For now, just know this: the patterns you carry didn't appear out of nowhere. They have roots, and those roots, once seen, can be gently untangled. You're not here because you're lazy. You're not here because you lack character. You're here because something in you recognizes the cost of staying the same, and something else, maybe quieter, is whispering that there might be another way. That whisper, that's the man trying to be born. And he doesn't need the boy to die. He just needs him to stop being the only one making the decisions. Your body already knows the script. It learned it long before your mind had words for what was happening. Someone mentions responsibility, and your body answers before you do. Sleepiness, irritation, a sudden, desperate need to be anywhere else. Your heart races before a conversation about money even begins. A headache blooms the night before a decision needs to be made. A knot tightens in your throat the moment someone asks you to show up, really show up, as an adult. You don't decide to disappear. You just ... do. You go quiet. You sleep longer than you need to. You fill your hours with secondary tasks, busy work that feels productive but moves nothing that actually matters. You handle a dozen small things, while the one big thing sits in the corner, growing heavier by the day. Hours dissolve into games, feeds, little pleasures that ask nothing of you. Meanwhile, the house fills with promises you made and never kept. The inbox swells, the conversations wait, and then comes the guilt. Guilt is a strange visitor. It doesn't knock, it just appears, sitting at the edge of your bed at 2 a.m., listing everything you should have done. And guilt, left alone too long, curdles into something darker. Shame. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am something wrong. And shame doesn't want to be seen. Shame wants to hide. So you reach for another escape, another screen, another nap, another tomorrow that will surely be different. The cycle closes like a rubber band snapping back against your wrist. Tension, release, bruise, tension, release, bruise, over and over, until the bruise becomes so familiar you forget it's not supposed to be there. Here's what no one tells you. This isn't weakness. This is a nervous system that learned, somewhere along the way, that responsibility equals danger, that stepping up means stepping into pain. Your body isn't betraying you, it's protecting you from something it decided long ago was too much to bear. The problem is, the threat it's protecting you from isn't here anymore. But your body doesn't know that. It's still guarding an old door, fighting an old war, flinching at shadows that have long since passed. Think of it like this. Your nervous system is a smoke detector that can't tell the difference between a house fire and burnt toast. Both set off the same alarm. Both send you running. And after enough false alarms, you stop trusting yourself to know what's real. So you numb. You scroll. You sink into the couch and let the hours blur. Not because you don't care, but because caring feels like too much. Because every time you try to rise, something in your chest whispers, not yet, not now, not you. But here's the truth that whisper doesn't want you to hear. The exhaustion you feel isn't from doing too much. It's from the weight of everything you're avoiding. The body keeps the score, as they say. And right now, yours is keeping a tab you never agreed to pay. The good news, tabs can be settled. Not all at once, but slowly. One honest breath at a time. Now that we've seen how the body keeps its own silent ledger, let's turn to an ancient story that mirrors this pattern with almost painful clarity. A young man inherits a throne. His name is REHOBOAM. His father was Solomon, wealthy, wise, legendary. And now the crown sits on a head that hasn't yet learned what it weighs. The people come to him with a simple request. Not rebellion, not overthrow, just a conversation. Your father's yoke was heavy, they say. Lighten the load a little, and we'll serve you faithfully. It's reasonable. It's human. It's the kind of ask that invites connection. Rehoboam pauses. He consults the elders, men with scars and decades behind their eyes. They've seen what pride costs. They tell him, if you serve these people today, they will serve you with their whole hearts tomorrow. Serve first. Lead second. Strength through softness. But then he turns to his friends, the boys he grew up with, the ones who validate his ego, who speak the language of proving and posturing, and they whisper something different. Show them who's in charge. If your father was tough, you be tougher. Don't let them see you bend. Rehoboam didn't wake up that morning wanting to destroy a kingdom. He woke up wanting to prove he was man enough to hold one. And so he chose the voice that made him feel powerful, not the one that would have made him wise. He confused hardness with strength. He mistook volume for authority. He measured his worth by immediate impact instead of lasting trust. The result? A kingdom cracked down the middle. 10 tribes walked away. Relationships shattered. Legacy fractured. All because a boy in a man's role let his insecurity make the decisions. Does any of this sound familiar? Maybe your throne isn't a nation. Maybe it's your home, your job, your health, your marriage. And maybe, like Rehoboam, you've been surrounded by voices that feed the most immature parts of you. Voices that say, yell louder to earn respect. Disappear so you don't mess up. Reject advice so no one controls you. You're not a monster. You're someone scared of looking weak. And fear, when it sits in the driver's seat, doesn't navigate well. The crack in Rehoboam's kingdom is the same crack that runs through relationships when the boy inside keeps making grown man decisions. The partner becomes a mother. Friends become enablers. Children become witnesses to your absence, learning silence as a second language. But here's what the story doesn't tell you directly, and what I want you to hear. Rehoboam's ending wasn't written in that single moment, and neither is yours. The throne you sit on today doesn't have to stay divided. The people around you haven't all walked away, not yet, and the voice of wisdom, it hasn't stopped speaking. It's just waiting for you to stop listening to the crowd that tells you what you want to hear. It doesn't have to be this way. So how did we get here? How did Rehoboam? And how did you end up with a throne too heavy and tools too small? The answer lives in a simple chain. What repeats becomes belief. Belief builds strategy. Strategy demands a cost. Let's trace it back. Maybe, somewhere in your childhood, someone loved you by doing everything for you. At the smallest sign of struggle, hands appeared to solve, to fix, to carry. It felt like care, and it was. But the body learned something quiet in those moments. Growing is optional. Someone will always come. You were rescued so many times that you never learned how to save yourself. Or maybe it was the opposite. Maybe no one came. Maybe your sadness sat alone in your room. Maybe your anger had nowhere safe to land. You learned to flee before you could break. And eventually, you fled from everything, even the things that could have healed you. In some homes, conflict was forbidden. Voices stayed low, but tension stayed high. No one modeled how to disagree without destroying. You arrived at adulthood without a map for hard conversations, so you avoided them altogether, or exploded, or both. And sometimes, the context was simply scarcity, emotional, financial, relational. Growing up felt dangerous, so delay became shelter. Staying small felt safer than risking the weight of being seen. From these soils grow silent beliefs, roots you never planted but still carry. I can't handle this. If I fail, they'll leave. someone will save me. Owning things means losing freedom. Giving in means losing value. Better not to try than to fall short. And to protect these beliefs, strategies emerge. Procrastination, deflection through humor, hours lost in games, screens, scrolling, numbing through drinks, through work, but only the work that feels good, while the rest piles up untouched. Do some of these overlap with ADHD? Perhaps, do they echo patterns clinicians have names for? Sometimes, but this isn't about giving you a label. It's about giving you an edge, a border around something that felt shapeless and infinite. Here's the psychology in plain words. When childhood care is consistent, the body learns an internal map of trust. The world is safe enough. I can explore. I can risk. But when that care is absent, unpredictable, or smothering, the body learns vigilance instead. It learns to scan for danger, to brace, to run. Decades of developmental research point in the same direction. Security creates foundation. Foundation unlocks autonomy. This isn't meant to frighten you or blame your parents. It's meant to explain why your nervous system still flinches at things other people seem to handle with ease. And more importantly, it's meant to justify something radical: daily protection. Yours, for you, by you. Rehoboam inherited more than a kingdom. He inherited a way of seeing himself, fragile beneath the crown, desperate to prove otherwise. His strategy was aggression. Yours might be avoidance. But the root is the same. A boy who never learned that strength and softness can share the same room. Here's the cruel twist no one warns you about. The very thing that saved you is now the thing that's strangling you. The lightness that once protected you from unbearable pain. It's now the wall between you and the life you say you want. The ability to disappear emotionally, to float above the hard stuff, to laugh when things got heavy. That was survival. That was a child doing his best with what he had. But survival strategies have an expiration date. And yours passed a long time ago. Let me be clear. The boy in you is not the enemy. He's not a tumor to remove or a flaw to fix. He's a part of you that learned to cope in the only ways available. The problem isn't that he exists. The problem is that he's still running the show. Being playful is a gift, but without boundaries, playfulness becomes avoidance. Knowing how to ask for help is wisdom, but without boundaries, it curdles into chronic dependence. You don't need to kill the boy. You need to sit the man down beside him. Let them share the room. Let the adult take the wheel when the road gets rough. But that's not what's happening, is it? Instead, you outsource deadlines, decisions, direction. You hand them off and hope someone else carries them home. And when things collapse, you feel the world conspiring against you. You feel attacked, misunderstood, unlucky. What you don't see, what the boy inside refuses to see, is that you were absent from your own life. You left the building and then wondered why no one answered when you knocked. You've made promises. God knows you've made promises. This time will be different. I'll handle it tomorrow. I'm going to change. And she nods. Your partner, your mother, your friend, with that tired smile you've seen 100 times. The smile that says, I've heard this song before. I know how it ends. So you retreat. You close the door. You reach for something fast and easy. A screen, a game, a drink, anything to quiet the noise in your chest. Anything to forget, just for a moment, the weight of all those unkept words. Then comes the message from the bank. The question that demands definition. The bill, the conversation, the thing that won't wait anymore. And the weight doesn't disappear, it turns. It becomes anger. At yourself for failing again. At others for expecting too much. At the universe for not giving you a break. You tell yourself it's just your way, that this is who you are. But somewhere beneath the excuses, You know the truth. This way of being is costing you everything. Your peace, your relationships, your self-respect. Rehoboam told himself the same story, that hardness was just his style, that the kingdom would bend to him. He didn't see the cost until the fracture was too wide to mend. You still have time, but not forever. Before we go any further, I want to pause, not to lecture, not to diagnose, just to ask 3 questions, simple on the surface, but if you let them land, they might show you something you've been avoiding. First, where have you said "I'm fine" while your body screamed otherwise? Maybe it was last week. Maybe it was this morning. That moment when someone asked how you were, and the words came out smooth and automatic. All good, no worries, while your chest tightened, your jaw clenched, your stomach turned. The mouth said peace. The body said war. Where was that moment for you? Second, in which relationship do you call your silence peace? Maybe it's with your partner, maybe your parents, maybe a friend who stopped asking hard questions because you trained them not to. You've convinced yourself that the absence of conflict means everything is okay, but silence isn't peace. Sometimes silence is just the sound of 2 people drowning in the same room, pretending they can breathe. Third, what request have you delayed because asking would make you look weak? What do you need, truly need, that you haven't voiced because the boy inside is terrified of being seen as small? Help with finances, support in parenting, a conversation about the weight you carry, what's sitting in your throat, unsaid, rotting quietly. If any of these questions touch something raw, good. That doesn't diminish you. It informs you. It means you're still alive enough to feel, still honest enough to flinch. You didn't wake up one day and decide to become the man who never grows. Nobody does. There's history here, layers, 1,000 small moments that taught you to shrink, to dodge, to disappear. You're not broken, you're shaped, and shapes can shift. Maybe you're exhausted. Exhausted from promising change you can't seem to deliver. Exhausted from the gap between who you are in public and who you are at 2 a.m. when no one's watching. On the outside, you look like the adult in the room. On the inside, you feel like a teenager improvising his way through a life that never came with instructions. Rehoboam probably felt something similar. A crown on his head and chaos in his chest. Everyone expecting a king, and inside, just a young man desperate not to fail. He didn't have language for it. He didn't have anyone who could hold that truth without using it against him. So he hardened, he postured, he broke what he was trying to protect. You are not a walking diagnosis. You are not an internet label or a hashtag or a case study. You are someone trying to carry what was never properly taught. And that's not shameful, that's human. The questions aren't here to wound you. They're here to show you where the wounds already live. Because you can't heal what you won't name. And you can't change a pattern you refuse to see. So let them land. Let them sting if they need to. And then breathe. Because what comes next is not more weight. It's a way forward. Now that you've named what's been hiding, the question becomes, where do you go from here? Not with a grand transformation. Not with another dramatic promise that collapses under its own weight. You've tried that. We both know how it ends. This time, we start small, concrete, sustained. Begin by naming the pattern, without turning it into a prison. Say it out loud, even if only to yourself. I run when things get hard. I delay when I'm afraid. I disappear when someone needs me to stay. Speaking, it doesn't trap you. It opens the door to visibility. You can't change what you refuse to see. Hold on to an anchor phrase, something to reach for when the old pull begins. Try this. I'm not a boy, but part of me still reacts like one. Or this. Asking for help doesn't make me small. It makes me responsible. Let those words become familiar. Let them meet you in the moments when you want to vanish. Next, choose one small responsibility, just one, and hold it for 30 days. Maybe it's a specific bill that's always been handled by someone else. Maybe it's one room in the house that becomes yours to maintain. Maybe it's taking your child to practice every Saturday, not when convenient, but when promised. This isn't about perfection, it's about presence, training yourself to stay when staying feels impossible. Anchor phrase, today, I do this part. It's not everything, but it's mine. Then, practice adult communication once a week, in place of the tantrum or the disappearing act. You have more words available than you think. You can say, I need help with this. You can say, I can't handle this alone yet. You can say, I'll do this part, but not that one. You can say, I want to help, and today I can't. You can say, let me think about it, I'll answer tomorrow. You can say, I care about us, and this way exhausts me. Can we adjust? These aren't scripts for weakness, they're blueprints for honesty. The kind Rehoboam never learned to use. He had only two modes, dominate or defend. You can build a third. Negotiate autonomy with the people around you. Tell them, by this month, I'll take over these responsibilities, and I need you to stop rescuing me from them. Every time someone does for you what you could do yourself, your growth pauses. Not because they're wrong, but because rescue, repeated too often, becomes a cage disguised as love. Use reminders, alarms, calendars, whatever scaffolding helps you stay upright while you're learning to walk again. The goal isn't to be saved one more time. It's to be supported while you cross the bridge on your own legs. And when the disorganization, the impulsivity, or the sadness grow too loud, seek professional help. A video doesn't replace a consultation. You're building a team, not handing your life over to anyone. One brick at a time, one honest word at a time. That's how kingdoms are rebuilt. Before we part, let's return one last time to Rehoboam, the young king with a throne too large for his maturity. He mistook hardness for growth, aggression for leadership, pride for identity. And his kingdom cracked, not from invasion, but from the inside. From decisions made by the frightened boy wearing the grown man's crown. The question that remains is simple but difficult. In which areas of your life is your kingdom fracturing because of choices made by your adolescent self? Your marriage, your career, your health, your relationship with your children? Where are the cracks forming? Where has the boy been steering while the man stayed silent? If Rehoboam had recognized his insecurity, if he had asked for help, listened to wisdom instead of ego, admitted he didn't have all the answers, the story could have been different. Tribes might have stayed. Trust might have held. A legacy might have been built instead of broken. His story is written. Yours is not. The difference between the boy and the man isn't who feels less fear. Fear doesn't disappear with age. The difference is who can hear the fear without letting it make every decision. Who can feel the trembling and still choose wisely. Who can admit weakness without collapsing into it. Maybe your kingdom today is your home, your body, your work, your closest relationships. It doesn't have to stay divided forever. Healing is possible, not through one dramatic gesture, but through 1,000 small ones. Brick by brick, conversation by conversation, breath by breath. Breathe with me now. You are not obligated to keep functioning as if you're 15 for the rest of your life. There is a man inside you trying to be born. He's been waiting patiently, quietly, for you to make room. The child doesn't need to die for the adult to exist. He just needs to stop being the only one at the wheel. Perhaps, for a long time, you've been a boy assigned to live a man's life. Starting today, you can begin in micro steps to take charge of yourself. Let me repeat the truth that has guided us from the beginning. This emotional immaturity doesn't come from nowhere. It's not laziness or character failure. It's usually a blend of temperament, attachment history, overprotection or abandonment, patterns where a person learned to survive by being rescued, cared for, or avoiding frustration at any cost. That works for a while, but in adulthood, it costs everything: autonomy, work, love. The good news: growing up on the inside isn't a magic leap. It's a process. Micro steps. Small daily decisions with clear boundaries. No labels required. In the next 24 hours, choose one small, repeatable gesture. One bill that's yours. One short conversation without yelling or vanishing. One clear request. Then notice your breath afterward. If this stirs deep pain, seek professional support. You're not alone in this. You don't have to remain the boy tasked with living a man's life. And if part of you wants to run while another part wants to stay, let this be for the part that wants to grow, even afraid.